Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 339.
Yeah.
I hope you're all keeping safe, keeping well. Hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Welcome back to another week. It's great to have you here. If you've just discovered the podcast, welcome aboard. And if you're a long-time listener, one of the grizzled ancients, then come back. Sorry, yeah, welcome back. Obviously do come back, but welcome back this week.
Come back.
Come back. We miss you. Come on. I was going through some podcast admin stuff the other day, and I listened to episode 1 of the podcast.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What year was that?
Crikey, yeah, 2014. And then I listened to episode 9, I think it was your first one.
Episode 9, was it? All right.
Something like that, yeah. And then I think you came back on 3 weeks after that, and then 3 or 4 weeks after that, you were on as permanent co-host. So I was listening to those early episodes, and bloody hell, dude. Wowzers, what a difference it is between then and now. Because when I recorded that first one, I was like, so I'm making this podcast because I like Doctor Who, and I'd like to talk about Doctor Who. So yes, welcome to this podcast, and yes, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who. So this week I'm going to talk about, it was really cringy to listen to, but yeah. And then the one that it was really cool, the one that you first came on, you were like, Bud! You're like, Bud, this is amazing. This is amazing. You were just really hyped up that first one.
Yeah, was that the Remembrance of the Daleks review?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Good times.
Yeah. God, I haven't listened to any of the early ones for forever. Why were you listening to them then? Were you doing putting them in order or something? What were you doing?
Well, I just had to go through and change a couple of settings with the podcast host. And I just bumped up the maximum number of episodes that you're allowed on your feed.
Oh, I see.
Because it cuts off, because I'd set it to, I think, 300 episodes. So I think it cut off at episode like 49 or something like that. So I went and adjusted it. And so now they're all available. So you can go back and listen to episode number 1, which is kind of funny, yeah. So I think it was episode 6, that you jumped on.
Oh, right.
And we did that. And then you came back on for episode 11 for our review of Deep Breath.
Deep Breath, yeah. I was going to say, I remember it was around about the Capaldi jumping on board as the new Doctor when I jumped in.
That's right.
Good times, yeah. It is strange looking back at old stuff, and it's like when I don't really do it very often, but occasionally we'll go back and look at like some of my early YouTube vids, especially the very first one. It is like watching a different person, isn't it? And probably like you, like listening to a different person, because you haven't found your swing yet, you haven't got into your groove, you're stuttering about all over the place and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, fun times though. It was interesting giving it a listen. So anyone that wants a little cringe fest for half an hour, go back and listen to the
cringe podcast.
The cringe podcast, yeah. So before we crack on, we have got a couple of bits of news to go through. At last, which is good, and then we're going to crack on with our review of the third Doctor story, Day of the Daleks. But before we crack on with that, remember to follow this podcast in your fave podcast app so you don't miss a show. They land every single Friday. Just do a search for us. We're on all the popular podcast networks and everything, or head over to the website where you can also listen to all the episodes there for free. It's bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And if you want a quick link to all of the networks and apps and stuff where we're listed, just go to bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk/listen. That will take you to a page of all the buttons and stuff. But on the actual website, all the episodes there, plus all the articles and reviews from the guys, the writing team. And we're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links are on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved there. And we have a free Discord server. So hop over there, links on the website, and come and chat Doctor Who over there.
It's all happening, isn't it?
It's all happening. Also, please don't forget, go and check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. His name over there is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes, there's a couple of cringe videos on there as well. I've got all of my... I've never deleted any of my vids. They're all on there right from the start. So, yes, go and check out my videos.
Go and check
Doctor Who. They're all Doctor Who videos, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
The old Star Wars one that got about 5 views, but then I went back to Doctor Who because they got a lot more.
Your on-the-spot reviews are pretty sweet, though. You just come out
I haven't done
cinema.
one of those for ages. I used to love doing them, yeah. They were a nightmare to do, but I used to love doing them. Yeah.
They're very cool.
More one day.
Go and check out Adam's videos. Actually, there's a couple of, talking of early videos, there's a couple of bangers. They're all bangers, but there's a couple of bangers from Adam's early years. And there's one where I think you're a bit hungover, mate. I think it's Boxing Day or something. You're sat at the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, let me just get the handbag.
That's a really early one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you pull out a can of lager from it and you're like, no, I don't want that anymore. I had enough of them last night. That was when you actually pulled stuff out of the bag.
I haven't done that. I used to do that gag every week. I haven't done that on a video for ages, actually. Yeah, I used to do that gag of pulling the wrong thing out every week before pulling the actual product out. But I don't know when that stopped. I just forgot about it, or I ran out of stuff to pull out. But yeah,
you just grew up, didn't you?
Crazy times.
Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So go and follow him over there.
Yeah,
and we can all chat Doctor Who, which is nice.
Exactly.
Really nice. Before we crack on with what we've been up to, I haven't been up to anything really, dude. I haven't watched any Doctor Who or anything. So I'm quite quiet this week in terms of what we've been up to. But the only thing I have been up to is I drafted all the guys from the writing team, well, most of them, and we did our January roundtable. So if you've not listened to that, that's also on the feed, also listed and stuff like that. Go and check that out. We all got together and we gave recommendations, one from the classic era and one from the modern era for newcomers to Doctor Who to dive into. So some good stories that are not heavily drowned in exposition or you need to know huge backstory, just some really fun isolated stories from each era. And we each gave 2 stories. So go and check that out. That's a cool little episode to crack into. But have you done anything this week, dude?
Well, I was thinking I was going to have something to talk about this week. So I was due to go to Doctor Who Time Fracture yesterday. I thought, oh, great, on the pod I can tell you all about it and what it was like, and it was good. But unfortunately, it got cancelled. So I was literally just leaving the house. And I got a message from Ad, my good friend Ad, who was going to join me, saying, it's cancelled, dude. I'm like, what? No. I was like, oh. So I still went to London, and me and the other half went and saw the Back to the Future musical instead, which is absolutely amazing. You like Back to the Future, don't you?
Love it, yeah. Is it good?
Oh, mate, go and see the musical. It's incredible. Like the stage show, it's like amazing. Absolutely brilliant. So I was hoping I'd be able to tell you all about Time Fracture today, but it seems to have a lot of cancellations. I was looking at their Facebook page, and they had a flood recently, so they had to close down for a couple of weeks, and then they opened, and it seems like every couple of weeks they cancel stuff for various reasons. Apparently our session was cancelled because some of the staff had got COVID, so I don't know how long that's going to be closed for. That's it. I mean, you know, obviously these sort of things can't be helped, but it seems like a really troubled production. It constantly seems to have something go wrong, which is a shame because the people who have actually managed to do it say it's really good. So I don't know. Yeah, hopefully I'll reschedule it for another time, but apart from that, I haven't done anything, but I was really looking forward to it. I thought, I'll actually have something to talk about on the podcast this week, I thought. But no, it wasn't to be. So,
well, that's annoying, bud. Yeah.
It is annoying, yeah. It is annoying. Because I was, as I said, I was literally walking up my path towards the train station, and so I got the message, so it's cancelled, and then I was like, oh, wow, shall I bother going to London now? What shall I do? And decided to go in the end anyway. But yeah, it was a bit frustrating. But these things happen. Can't be helped.
These things happen, mate.
Yeah. Are you interested in that? You ever considered doing it, or because there's the escape rooms as well, which is still going on, which I think are meant to be pretty good, like the Cyberman one and stuff. But you tend to buy any of that stuff?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I was up for it when they announced them. When was this? Some point early last year, maybe the year before that. Especially the escape room stuff. I was up for it, but then the whole pandemic thing kicked in, and then like you experienced last night, it's a case of there's no certainty with anything, so you book your ticket, but then they say, well, keep an eye on the Facebook page or whatever, and then inevitably You know, it's like we've had to postpone the show for X amount of days or weeks, and then your ticket gets either, you know, put forward, or they refund it, then you have to go through it again and do that. So it's not really a huge problem, but yeah, it's just a bit of a pain in the bum.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a bit, and it has gone on to be a bit of a pain because I found a special offer, so I got tickets for £15, which is why I went. I thought, blimey, you know, that's good. They're normally 45 to 56. So then you get the refund for your tickets, but then you only get the price that you paid, obviously. But then the tickets have gone up. So if you try and rebook it, I'm thinking, so hang on, I've got a £15 voucher, but the tickets are now 45 or 56. So am I expected to pay? So I don't quite know how that works. And then on the train back last night, I got another email saying, "Oh, we've realised the funds never left your account, so we've cancelled your voucher." So I'm like, hang on. So what? So I don't know what's going on now. I need to check whether it ever left my bank, which I think it must have done because I booked it last week and I got a confirmation and everything. So how come do you know what I mean? Suddenly it's turning into an absolute fiasco. And I'm just thinking, I wish I hadn't bothered now.
That's what I mean. It's a bit of a pain in the bum, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a nightmare. So
yeah, who knows what's going to? Yeah, who knows what's going to happen from today? We're in the UK, obviously, and from today, the government have announced that everyone can go and do what they want without face masks now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to have another little mini wave because of that, or if it's going to continue. I don't know, but yeah, to answer your question, I am up for them. Just waiting for it to settle down a little bit.
Yeah, so I must admit, I'd feel a bit uncomfortable now that face masks have been banished. I think I will still wear mine. I wouldn't want to go to an event because apparently they're really busy as well, these Time Fracture events. A lot of people said, you know, you're packing a lot of people in, and you know, even though they're wearing masks, I'm thinking, wow, if they're doing that without masks. And in fact, one of the reasons I was a few minutes late jumping on the podcast, excuse me, this morning was because I was listening to the presenter and the guy arguing about wearing face masks, and I just lost track of time because this guy was really going for it. I'm not being told what to do. I'm not wearing one. I'm thinking, it's not really about that. It's about like using your brain. And should I, you know, anyway. Yeah, I won't be doing Time Fracture anytime soon because of that, I don't think.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So maybe when it settles down,
yes,
we'll jump on it, dude. We'll have a London day.
That'd be awesome.
Do that stuff. Yeah. Alrighty. Before we jump into our review, then I reckon we should hop back in the TARDIS and do a bit of news, bud.
News? Okay.
As much as I loved being in that nice cold quarry, the TARDIS is nice.
Yeah.
Whenever I think about having a brew, I always think about McCoy in the TARDIS, just sat there with a nice bit of chilled music on, a nice cup of tea, and
the TV movie. Yeah, that is a lovely scene, isn't it?
Yeah. I think if you and I, if we were to build a TARDIS prop or something like that, other than some of the very cool ones that we've seen recently, like the Ruth's Doctor, you know, that very nice, old school looking but still modern. I think the old TV movie TARDIS set, I think, is such a beautiful thing.
It is gorgeous, isn't it? It feels, I'd love to just walk into that set. Yeah, that'd be the one, wouldn't it? That would definitely be the one. Yeah, I mean, I like the Fifth Doctor console, but there's not many chairs, and it's not very cozy. Whereas that Eighth Doctor console room, I think, is one of the best. It's just beautiful, isn't it?
It is indeedy. Now we've got some news to go through. So the first one is, and these are product announcements, which is very cool. So the first one is we've got some new Target books on the way. So BBC Books, they've announced that they will be expanding the range this year. So around summertime this year. This date might change, but at the moment it's hard penciled in for the 14th of July, but sometimes that moves. They're going to bring out half a dozen new Target books, which is really cool. The first one, The Stones of Blood by David Fisher, that is going to be adapted from his earlier audio novelizations from about 5-6 years ago. And also The Androids of Tara, or Terror, also by David Fisher. So Stones of Blood, it's an ancient stone circle becomes a battleground as the Fourth Doctor must outwit the deadliest alien criminal this side of hyperspace. And The Androids of Terror is the Fourth Doctor and Romana's search for the fourth segment of the all-powerful key to time leads them to the planet. Yeah, so that's one of those stories that we all know anyway from the Fourth Doctor's run. Then you've got The Fires of Pompeii by James Moran. And that's this is the Tennant and Catherine, the one with Peter Capaldi in it, the TV episode.
Yeah.
So that's the novelisation of that. And then we've got The Eaters of Light by Rona Monroe. And it's the 12th Doctor story. And it's Bill and Nardole take them back to the 2nd century in Scotland to learn the fate of the lost 9th Legion of the Imperial Roman Army. So that's kind of cool. And then you've got the last one is the Zygon Invasion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is written by Peter Harness.
Mm.
And that one is it took 3 doctors to broker a fragile peace between Zygons and humans. Now the 12th Doctor must face the fallout alone, with his allies compromised and his companion believed dead. Can he stop the world from plunging into war? So some familiar stories there that we've seen on the TV and stuff, but we've got a couple of older ones as well, which is cool. So any of these float in your boat, dude? A couple of them are sound good to me.
Yeah, I mean, Stones of Blood and Androids of Tara interested in. Fires of Pompeii is good. Eaters of Light, oh dear, that was I've only ever watched that once, I think. An absolute snore fest of an episode. I was really disappointed because it's written by Rona Monroe, who did Survival. I remember there's quite a big thing about her coming back to Earth Doctor Who, but I mean, the book might be a lot better, but it doesn't appeal to me. Zygon Invasion sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So most of them, actually. They all sound pretty good. There is a lot of unhappy 13th Doctor fans out there because they were expecting, one of her stories to be one of these announcements. And I kind of get that. I think, although the merch clearly doesn't sell that well for this era we're in at the minute, I think the Target books are a given. I think most people would pick up, are more likely to pick up a 13th Doctor story. So I am surprised they didn't throw one in there just to keep, to give some 13th Doctor merch, because it's, we are still in that era. It does seem strange that we don't really get anything, even if it doesn't sell. I mean, something like this would surely sell anyway, at least a few copies. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen something from this era thrown in there just to mix it up a bit, really. But yeah, a good little selection. I think Stones of Blood is the one I'm most looking forward to out of those.
That does sound cool, that one.
Yeah, I quite like that story.
Yeah. And talking of Jodie's era, and we're still in that era very much so. Yeah, I guess fans should expect a little bit of merch from the Beeb about her Doctor. It feels like she's already been being shuffled out the door, because if you believe any of the rumours that have been knocking around for the past week or so, David Tennant's coming back, Catherine Tate's coming back. It's all a bit much. It's all a bit like, thanks for coming, Jodie. A couple of stories left, but forget about that. Yeah. We've got these cool people coming back, if you believe the rumours. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. But anyway, it's cool that there are more Doctor Who books coming in the Target range. So July this year, you'll be able to pre-order them soon, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll definitely pick a few of those up. Do you believe the Tennant rumours, by the way? Just out of interest. Do you reckon he's coming back for the 60th or something, and that's got confused with him being the new Doctor, or do you think there's some sort of weight to him coming back?
I'm really not sure, dude. It's one of those rumours. 99% of the time with rumours, we can say with the best educated guess whether it's nonsense or whether there's some weight behind it. But this one, I'm really torn behind, because for two reasons. The first one is that I don't think David Tennant would come back and just do another complete series. That seems kind of weird to do that. Yeah. But I do feel like you're probably right. It's probably something related to the 60th or the centenary stuff. But it does
That's
seem,
what I feel.
Does seem kind of weird. And also the whole, the whole, I don't know. It feels like it would be kept more under wraps than this. Over the last few years, they've always managed to keep it under lock and key a bit more until they announce something. So for this to be leaked, that does seem a bit weird. But
I was going to say, normally I wouldn't even consider it, but I am at the minute, just because I think anything could happen. I mean, Phil Collinson's coming back, they're getting the band back together, and I thought, well, there could be truth in it. And also, Doctor Who's taking such a pummeling in the press at the minute. They're really latching onto the low ratings, and so they might just want to keep some good bits of news floating around to keep the hype up. So I don't know. I'm willing to believe it, but I don't believe it at the minute. But we'll see.
Also,
anyway, sorry,
we've spoken to the BBC are very, very good, obviously, with their PR and everything over the last couple of years or so with Jodie's era. So even though we know as watchers and listeners that the show is not doing as well as it did in previous years, the BBC will still say, yeah, we're very proud of the show and everything.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there was a BFI event, and we bumped into somebody who speaks to people at the BBC, and we're not going to name his name, obviously.
Don't name him.
No names, but he's
or her.
he's very involved. That person is very involved with the people who are at the BBC who still make the show, and from behind the scenes, they are very much not happy with how the show is going and how it's gone. So I feel for that reason, it could be a bit of a, right, we need a big name to plot back in the show to bring it back up to start, closing the gap on the ratings and stuff like that. So who knows, bud?
Who knows? We shall see. So yes, in other merch news, and we've been waiting for an announcement in the new Blu-ray range for a while. So we now know that season 22 is going to be the next set to be released. It's Colin Baker's first season, and it's a good one, actually. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the Collins era at the time, but actually over the years I've gone back and there's some good stories in there. I mean, got Attack of the Cybermen, Revelation of the Daleks, Vengeance on Varos, which fans like, but me and Gary don't. So Time Lash, of course. Oh dear. So it is a mixed bag, but it's going to be a good set. It's got loads and loads of brand new features on it. I mean, I'm not going to list them all because it goes on and on and on. But you got stuff like updated effects and extended episodes, behind the sofas, obviously. So loads of good stuff on this, and it came with a brilliant trailer, didn't it? Where they got Nicola Bryant back as Perry, and she gets in the TARDIS with the Sixth Doctor at the end. What's he called? Brian Blessed's character. There's a big statue of him that she's standing by. It was a brilliant little trailer for that. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this. They haven't given it a date yet, but the BFI are doing an event for Revelation of the Daleks, which is the beginning of March, and these normally come out a week or two after those events. So I think we're looking at middle of March for this.
I think so. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. And you're right. It's a great trailer, dude. It's a really cool,
brilliant trailer.
Very, very cool trailer. It's I can't remember what the statue's name, the Brian Blessed character is, but
I want to say Eukarnos, but I don't know if that's right.
Something like that. Yeah, but she's known as, I think it's the Warrior Queen.
That's it,
or something. And there's another character called Rex who stars in like a young chap that stars in the trailer with her, and she looks really good, dude.
She does. She looks. She does look great. Yeah, she
looks great in that trailer, and it almost whenever I see things like so, these trailers that they do for these box sets are so well done. You can tell that they've really put, because they can't have a big budget at all. They can't.
No,
So the people that make them, they must have such love. You can tell anyway. The everything is there, and it's whenever I watch these though, I always just get such a great sense of like they really should bring some of these companions back and just shove them all into a very cool spin-off, because if you can imagine Perry with Ace, and some other people that still have got all their marbles, they look great, they would be absolutely fine in a similar way that they did with Liz Sladen, I suppose, like in her later life, brought her back with the Sarah Jane Adventures. They could so easily do that. And maybe with Russell coming back and he's looking at this whole multiverse thing potentially, and spin-offs and whatnot, maybe that would happen. But I really feel like absolutely Ace should have her own spin-off with her agency that she runs now. And, Perry could come back and some other people. It would be so easy to set up. It doesn't require a lot because the characters are already established. You know who they are, where they've been, what they've done. This is just another extension of what they're up to now. It would be so cool. But anyway, back to the box set, dude. It's got a ton of stuff, hasn't it? All the special features that you mentioned. It's just a huge list of stuff. So that'd be cool. And what's cool as well is the thing that they always do, the behind, is it behind the sofa?
Yeah.
Stuff. There's some real regulars coming back for that one. Davison's era.
Yeah.
They're on this one as well, and I think they were on the last one.
I'm loving the fact that Janet Fielding is back and Wendy Padbury. And you got Colin and Nicola are going to be on there. Terry Malloy, Peter Davison, that's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, I love the behind the sofas. I think they're my favourite features of the new set. So I can't wait for this one. McCoy's on there as well. He's going to be watching it. So yeah, a really good lineup for the Behind the Sofa. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And one of the things that you particularly like as well is going back to locations.
Yes.
That's all really cool stuff when they go out and do that. And they've also got some convention footage from way back in the day with Jacqueline Pierce, John Nathan Turner, Colin Baker. So the old days, you know, the old conventions where they used to do proper interview panels and all that stuff. So yeah, really cool set. So I think that's, I think you're right. It's probably going to drop around that BFI Marchy sort of time.
Yeah, I would think so.
Maybe April, maybe the first or second week of April, something like that. But that's on the way, so that's a good one. It's a decent little set as well. It's a bit mixed bag. I know Colin doesn't really rank very high on people's lists now and then, but this series has got a cool little list of episodes. So.
Two Doctors I forgot to mention. That's on there, of course.
Yeah. I think the other one is Mark of the Rani. Is it?
Oh, Mark of the Rani. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, there is some good stuff in it, isn't there? Yeah.
Come on, Colin. Come on, Colin. Bring in the bacon with season 22, eh? So there we go. We'll keep you up to date on socials, whatever, once the date's announced, and come and join us at the BFI. I'm hoping to get to this one, so that'll be cool. Yeah, come and join us at the BFI. Have a couple of beers afterwards and chat Doctor Who.
Sounds
if you're in the UK, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, bud. News out the way. Review time. What we got?
Hiya! It's the third Doctor doing a bit of Venusian Aikido. And so first Doctor joined by the Daleks and some funny things called Ogrons. It's Day of the Daleks.
Exterminate! The Daleks have discovered the secret of time travel. We have invaded Earth again. We have changed the pattern of history.
I want to know what you're doing here.
He's the sworn enemy of the Daleks. He's the one man they're afraid of, don't you see? It's our only hope. If we don't act quickly, it may be too late.
You are the Doctor! You are an enemy of the Daleks! Now you are in our power! You will be exterminated!
One Doctor.
Their history must talk a lot about some original styles.
You mean they travel back in our time to try and change history?
Changing history is a very fanatical idea, you know.
The Dalek Empire will spread through all planets and all times. No one can withstand the power of the Daleks.
Benton calling Unit HQ. Benton calling Unit HQ. We just can't hold them, sir.
All enemies of the Daleks must be destroyed.
The trailer is very
exciting.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trailer's potentially better than the story.
Oh.
Potentially.
Steady
on. The Day of the Daleks. Not the Day of the Daleks. Just Day of the Daleks.
Yeah, there's no the.
There's no the. It was first broadcast back on the 1st of January, so a New Year's Day episode, back in 1972. And it's a four-parter, 25 minutes each, so not too bad going, this one. It was written by Lois Marks, directed by Paul Bernard, stars John Pertwee and Katie Manning. Fairly large supporting cast, this one, and the synopsis is freedom fighters from the 22nd century attempt to thwart a new Dalek invasion of Earth by going back in time to the late 20th century to assassinate Sir Reginald Styles, a delegate to the World Peace Conference, whose actions their history blames for the subsequent Dalek conquest. So what do you reckon, dude?
I'm just looking at this cast list. How the hell did they ever afford to make Doctor Who back in the Pertwee era? Every story has about 50 people in it. It's mad, isn't it? The Pertwee era. It's always got a huge list of actors. Whereas when we get sort of later on into the Fourth Doctor, Fifth Doctor, it goes down to about 5 or 10. So I just don't know how they afforded them all.
Also, on this story, there's about 20 people who are uncredited who are in it.
Oh,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Also, I was going to say actually the trailer as well. That's the trailer for the special edition, isn't it? I can tell because the Dalek voices sound good in that trailer, whereas in this story, in the original version, they don't seem to know how to do the Dalek voices anymore, and they've lost the remodulator, and it's all a bit thrown together. But Day of the Daleks, it's an odd one, and I kind of like it actually. I've always kind of liked it, but it is, I don't know. The Daleks aren't in it very much. The actual storyline is quite cool. This timey-wimey story that they've got about changing history and the Earth in the future. I like all that stuff. And I think what it is I don't think the actual episodes are brilliant, but there are elements in the episodes that I absolutely love. And so overall, I quite like this one. I think the cast, on the whole, are pretty good. I think they're trying quite hard, even if some of the acting's a bit off in places. I don't feel like Pertwee's massively into this story, although he's very good in it. I know he didn't really like the Daleks. I feel like he's, not really invested too much in the actual Dalek storyline. But Pertwee is still great in it. But Katie Manning's wonderful, and the supporting cast are fairly decent. And you get a good action sequence with Pertwee on a trike, which of course is just classic Pertwee. He always has to find a futuristic, at the time, looking vehicle to ride. I just love it. It's absolutely pointless. It goes absolutely nowhere. He gets captured almost immediately. And the Ogrons have to run really slowly because the bike doesn't go very fast. It cracks me up. But stuff like the Daleks in the tunnel, the location of the house, which I must come on to later. Remind me about that, the location. There's just stuff in these episodes that I love, even though the story itself is a bit of a plodder, unfortunately. But there's something about it I like.
I will say that I don't mind this one, but I do find it a wee bit boring, I must say. It
is a plodder, I will admit.
It is a plodder, for sure. And I also find that overall it's a story about the Doctor versus, initially anyway, the guerrilla humans that have come back to assassinate the Styles. But you've also got the Controller who's in cahoots with the Daleks and all that. So I find that it's a story about the Doctor versus those people with some cameos by the Daleks.
Yeah, all three of them.
All three of them, yeah. It's extremely, which is surprising really because, well, actually no, it's surprising and it's not, because it's surprising because it's the first story properly with the Daleks since whenever the last proper one was. I think it was
67, I think.
Yeah. Whatever the last decent Dalek story was that they were actually in it. Was it Evil of the Daleks or I can't remember. No, I can't remember. So I'm surprising because it's like the first one, but I'm also not surprised because the Daleks were added to the story later. It's like
you can tell, can't you?
Sort of a late addition, yeah. They just wanted to feature them. So, but as a result of that, unfortunately, you just get 90% of the story with the Daleks. They're just in one room, not really moving around. They're just having a go at people for a couple of minutes. And then at the very end, there's a bit of an attempt to get them out. They're wheeling along the path from under the bridge, and they're having a bit of a showdown alongside the Ogrons and U.N.I.T and stuff.
Yeah.
But, that's not really anything to shout home about. So I find it's an okay story, and I think John Pertwee is very good in it as usual. And I love the whole, karate chops, and all that stuff, and the crazy, like you said, the crazy little three-wheeled bike that he jumps on, and with a huge, massive tyres for some reason that's bumping all over the place and goes about 3 miles an hour. It's all funny. It's all real funny, classic Pertwee stuff. So I appreciate it for that aspect of it, and it's cool. And there's a couple of okay performances as well from the supporting cast. And but other than that, it's just really, it's very, very difficult to push it up any sort of Dalek list. Decent Dalek stories. It's very difficult to plop it up there. But
you mentioned there that the Daleks weren't originally in the story. I think that's quite obvious, and because, like you said, this is the first time we would have seen the Daleks since Evil of the Daleks in 1967. So you'd think it'd be a massive Dalek comeback, wouldn't you? Like, Evil of the Daleks is quite an epic story. You got the Emperor Dalek and that stuff. So you'd think like they've been away all this time. and they're bringing the Daleks back, but they're hardly in it, and there's only 3 of them. It feels like a really tiny Dalek force. So it doesn't feel as epic as I think it should do. We do get a good shootout at the very end, but even that feels a bit. Again, you've only got 3 Daleks. It doesn't really feel very epic that it should. I mentioned the special edition earlier, and I'm not normally much of a fan of when they do these. So that there's like a version where they added new effects, and they actually went back to the location with an old Dalek prop. Well, actually, it was a new Dalek prop, but it looked like an old one. Some fanatic had built one. It looked like the Daleks in this story. They got is that the right word? A fan.
A fan, yeah.
A fan. And they got a video camera, an old video camera, so that the film matched up and looked a bit grainy like the original. So the special edition, it's one of the few ones that they've done where I actually think they managed to do some good stuff. It doesn't jar. The effects look good. The new effects look good. They've added in scenes of the Daleks at the house location, which looks really good. So you feel like there's a bigger Dalek army. So actually, the special edition of this is fairly good. And like they say on the extras, you've still got the original. We haven't. If you want to watch the original, watch that. But here's a alternative version with a lot more effects and Daleks. The only thing that annoys me is they cut the Ogron line, no complications, which I think is classic. I think it's sacrilege that they cut that line. But the special edition is fairly decent, I have to say. It's a good effort. And I don't normally like it. I'm just not a fan of. I think the CGI, that they don't get the budget very often to do what they really want to do with the special edition. So I often think, just leave it as is. We like the old dodgy special effects. We like the old dodgy special.
I watched the special edition version.
Special. Yeah, it's more epic, isn't it? The battle at the end is
definitely, yeah,
really good. Yeah,
the original one, you can tell that they've just got the odd squib going off here and there, and
it's a bit flat, isn't it?
There's a little pop of a gun that's it's very flat. But the new one, as well as adding loads more explosions around the ground and everything like that, they've added this cool sort of depth of field effect where you see like a Dalek from the side and a couple of Ogrons, but one of them's blurred out a little bit, and these big lens flares as the guns are going off, and it just feels a lot more epic. It's obviously the sort of thing that they wanted to achieve back in the day, but didn't have any money to do it properly, so it is a bit flat. And also there's a couple of exterior shots that are done, and the CG's not too bad in this one.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So I watched the special edition one, but I think I prefer the original one.
I do.
Yeah, just for
I always would, I think.
Yeah, just for nostalgia's sake, I suppose, and but a bit of a purist sort of view on things. But I don't mind this special edition one. It's pretty sweet. So
they would have been able to do it now. I'll tell you for why, because this will come on to the location thing. So the big white manor. I don't know what the name of it is. The house. It's in somewhere in Buckinghamshire, I think.
It's in Taplow, I think, somewhere.
Taplow, yeah. So I've often wanted to visit that location. And obviously they went back at the time and got permission to film some extra scenes for the special edition. They also did the Now and Then featurette showing how the house had changed and stuff. And as you know, I love visiting Doctor Who locations. So that was back then. I think it was 2011 this got made, I think, somewhere around there. Anyway, well, they wouldn't be able to do it now because a friend of mine who also loves visiting Doctor Who locations and he goes to loads, and he's often goes dressed up as the Doctor. He's really into it. He went to this location, and the guy went nuts. So it's obviously changed hands. I think it used to be an office or a retirement home or something, and now I think someone's bought it and. It's got different ownership. Wow, yeah. My friend who's really polite, lovely guy, just said he got there and first of all noticed that 2 great big gates had been put up, so you couldn't actually even get to the house. And he buzzes in and leaves a message and says, "Oh, my name's can I leave? I'd love to come and just take some photos." Doctor Who. Anyway, he gets a really angry phone call back later on saying, "I've got your number plate, and if you ever come here again, I'll phone the police. Don't you ever come on my property again. I don't want any association with Doctor Who. I don't care that it was filmed here. Do not come here again." This guy, my friend, was just like, "Whoa, what?" So yeah, it's a good job they did it when they did, because whoever's got the house now, such a shame, because such a cool house. I've been wanting to go there for ages.
Yeah, Dropmore House in Taplow.
Yeah, Dropmore. Don't go there. For God's sake, don't go there.
Don't go there.
Because this guy, unless he's gone now. But that was a few months ago that my friend went. But yeah, man, not good.
I was almost tempted to say something rather silly then. But what? I think you've nailed it. It's like, please, I was about to say something like, well, as a result of that, we should gather up every single Doctor Who cosplayer and fan and we'll all descend.
Yeah, let's all go down there on a coach, get some Daleks, Cybermen banging on his gate, let us in.
Yeah, but we know what happened with that guy that said, let's storm Area 51, and that got way out of hand. So that was a joke. I just want to be serious there. Do not go to Dropmore House in Taplow.
No.
Don't upset the owner, please. It was a joke.
The thing is, Thomas, who goes to these places, he's such a lovely, polite guy. I bet when he got that message, I bet he was like, what the hell? Anyway, so yeah, we won't be going to that location, sadly.
Sadly, yeah. What do you reckon to story then, in terms of direction, pacing, editing, and the concept of actually properly using time travel as a device in the story, which ironic really, as the show is based around a time-travelling alien, sometimes it's not used as an actual plot device, but in this one, it was.
Yeah, I think the actual storyline is pretty good, this whole thing. I don't think the direction's particularly good, I have to say. Paul Bernard, really flat. There's no flair to it at all. This is exactly an example of, like we often say, of shove the camera there, point, film. There's no sort of style to it, really. Even the shootout at the end, which is probably the best bit, is just filmed so flatly. Walk towards the camera, shoot the gun. There's a bit where a Dalek sort of bangs into a door on the outside of the house. It's direction really lets this down massively.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And the director, Paul Bernard, he I think this was one of only a few that he directed, and you can absolutely tell when I tell you the other two, The Time Monster and Frontier in Space.
Oh,
so you can tell that he's definitely got a style, bless him, old Paul. He's no longer with us, so I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but his direction was very, very static and flat.
It's very static, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to almost... It's okay when you've got those scenes where it's just the Doctor laid out looking like extreme, like James Bond, just a complete Don, eating some grapes and drinking some wine. And
Gorgonzola and wine, yeah.
So when it's like that and he's chatting with Joe and stuff, it's fine. That's all good. But when you want to inject a bit of energy, when you've got a bit of a chase scene or a bit of a shootout, you really need a bit more of a, I understand the limitations of what they were dealing with back in the day, but still, you need a little bit of, let's put the camera up a bit higher there. Let's get this angle here. Let's cut this together a bit quicker so it feels a bit more exciting. It's just none of that. It's just, unfortunately. But
it feels almost like this could be the sort of production and the direction and the way everything's so slow and static. It really feels like a Dalek story from the 60s. Stuff like when what's that villain's name? Aubrey Woods' character, the Controller. The bit when he comes in to talk to the Daleks on a couple of occasions and he has to wait what feels like forever for the blimmin' door to open, the big Dalek door. He just stands there, door is slowly open, and then you're like, just cut it. Just cut to the door's already open. Like, what? Stuff like that. It feels like the sort of stuff you got in the 60s.
Exactly.
Really, in that sort of style. But
static as hell, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, that's... he's not told to... I don't think he had any direction in what to do, because there's about 3 or 4 scenes like that where he goes into the room to talk to them. And he literally just has to stand there with his hands by his side. I know, yeah. He doesn't walk around a little bit. He doesn't, doesn't do anything. He just walks in and just... I've been told to come and talk to these dudes, so I'll probably just stand here, I guess.
Yeah.
Paul, want me to do anything, mate? No. It's all about the dialogue. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I did not have this on Willy Wonka, that's for sure. You recognise him as the Candyman singer at the beginning, right?
I didn't actually, but Adam, who I was with last night, told me that, and I didn't know what he was on about. I'm like, he's a Candyman?
The Candyman can.
I was thinking of, Happiness Patrol, but no, yes. He was the Candyman in the Willy Wonka film, is that right?
Yeah, he's the sweet shop owner at the beginning.
I didn't remember. I know. You're talking about Aubrey Woods?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only know him from Blake Seven, mate. He's plays this really camp, strange villain in a Blake Seven. Crantor. Oh my word, that performance is something else. If you haven't seen that episode, go and watch it. It's him and John Leeson sort of doing this double act in this Blake Seven episode. It is outrageous and so over the top. And anyway, yeah. But I don't remember him in Willy Wonka.
Let's see if he's a proper classic British actor. Did we have any Z cars or anything? No, we don't. No, sorry, Aubrey.
I thought he was like in the start of this episode as well. I thought he'd been like hypnotized or something the way he was acting. I'm like, is he under some sort of spell? Because he was acting very sort of wooden, and he looked glittery as well early on in the story, which he doesn't later on. I don't know if that was just the studio lights reflecting on him or what, but I don't know. His character seems to change. He's better in the latter half of the story. I think once he sort of does that scene with Pertwee and Joe, and he's got a bit more beef in the script and a bit more to do, he seems to get better in his performance. But early on, I don't know. That maybe again, the director said, "Oh, I don't know, act like you're hypnotized." I don't know. It's just a very strange performance at the start.
I think potentially it was a case of you need to act quite.
I thought he'd been
cold
robotized or something. Yeah, cold, like.
Yeah, and very unwelcoming. But then as the story goes on,
he sort of almost talks like a Dalek in a way.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I get you what you're saying there, dude. And then as the story goes on, it's like you need to soften up a little bit because the Doctor and Joe have sort of made you realise that, you know, you'll never win. You'll never be any kind of partner or anything to the Daleks. They'll just do away with you when they're done.
Actually, that's one scene I really liked, is when the Doctor saved the controller. Like, the guy wants to shoot him. He's like, but he's done terrible things. And the Doctor, again, Pertwee just being brilliant, stops him from shooting him. And that then makes the controller sort of question what he's doing, and he helps the Doctor. So I liked that scene. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. So the
good Doctor moment.
So the time travel aspect, we'll get onto some more characters in a minute, but the time travel aspect, that was kind of cool because it was also, because at this point in the story, it's got that typical Pertwee-esque thing where the TARDIS console is outside of the TARDIS and he's doing...
What is that about?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to repair stuff and tinker, and I think even the Brig has a little joke. He's like, "Oh, you still got this thing working?" And the Doctor's like, "Yeah, shut up." So I think he's tinkering and stuff. So I think this gives him something else to play with. I think he's fascinated by... Because at first it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because they switch on the time travel device and they think it's people disappearing. And Styles, you know, the opening bit of the story when the guy jumps in the window to assassinate him, but something goes wrong and he disappears. So that's where I think the ghosts aspect of the story is important at the beginning, because I think the early working titles and stuff for the story was things like The Ghost Hunters, you know, Day of the Ghosts and the Ghosts and stuff like that. So the time travel bit is masked around why are people vanishing and stuff like that. And then later on in the story, the Doctor's like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. It's a bit primitive, but, you know, it's very cool," and he gets it working. So that's one thing I did appreciate in the script, was the humans that have sort of invented time travel by themselves to a degree, and have used it to. It's a bit like the whole Terminator storyline, isn't it? They're going back into the past. I was going to say Back to the Future then, because you mentioned it earlier. They're going back to the past to assassinate someone so he doesn't, you know, enact, you know, a huge circle of events that leads to the Dalek invasion. So it's a bit like going back to kill John Connor so he doesn't form the resistance. So I wonder where they got that storyline from. Yes. So yeah, that part was cool. However, did you feel like it was a little bit of we need to get from A to C, not A to B, and the only way we can do that is with a little time travel device thing that looks like a portable man bag?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So just your thoughts really on the time travel
and
part of it, I suppose.
Why is it in that tunnel? I mean, I love the tunnel. I love the tunnel under the bridge. It's iconic, but what's that little device just doing dumped in that tunnel? It's such a random thing, isn't it?
I think the character, what's her face? I think it's Is it Monia? Who's the woman who's like leading the little gorilla thing to come back? I think she does say, I think she does say that location under the tunnel is like a little fixed location that's matched in your time and our time.
That's it.
Just happens to be in this little tunnel under the bridge sort of thing. But yeah, I did really like that part of it using time travel, but it just felt like we can't operate the story without that part of it. And it was just a little bit, it's just one of those little convenient parts of Doctor Who.
I was going to say a bit convenient.
Yeah, it's like the entire plot and the story is leading to this point where essentially the Doctor's winning them round. He's basically saying, look, you think you're doing the right thing by going back in time, killing this person. But what in actual fact is happening is you've created a paradox where you think you're doing the right thing, but actually you're the ones that are causing the problem.
Yeah.
And so the only way that they can actually solve this is to go back and do it. So you can tell it's leading up to this convenient bit where, everybody ends up back in their own time stream. Everybody ends up back here, sort of thing. So
yeah, it can only really go one way. I know what you mean. It's a little bit convenient. It's weird that TARDIS scene at the start, isn't it? Well, they do that in a few stories, don't they? Where the TARDIS console is out of the TARDIS itself, and in this weird, I don't know, what would you call it? A room with two big, are they green doors? Because I'm colourblind. It's like two big green iron doors. It's just such an odd
it is a bit
idea.
Weird,
and I don't quite get why they ever did it, because I don't really think it's ever properly explained. But in a strange way, I like it. So the director, I think it was, is it the director that refused to film the ending? Because it ends with just the Doctor talking to the guy who's been saved. But it was supposed to go back to the TARDIS, wasn't it? And do another scene that followed up from the scene at the start. So you would have seen the Doctor and Joe appear in the doorway like they do at the start again. But the director apparently said, no, we're not filming that. We're not. It ends. This is the ending, and completely cut that off, which is probably for the best, because it would have been a pointless.
That's right.
scene.
Yeah, I think it. Well, it's really. I think it would have been helpful actually, because because that scene at the beginning is just random.
It is random. That's a good point, actually. It is random. So this would have been a reason for having it there. I get you. Yeah, true.
Yeah, it doesn't serve any purpose at all. It's just, you see the Doctor. So for listener, if you've not seen this story before, the opening scene where the Doctor is tinkering with the TARDIS, he's doing something and he makes a mistake, something happens, and then the Doctor and Joe as themselves appear in the same room, in the doorway. And they look up and she's like, oh, that was me. And, they have a little conversation for 30 seconds and that's it. So it's not explained anywhere else in the story why that happens, why they've come back at that point. And I think it was written as a bit wishy-washy, just, you shouldn't. I think the Doctor says something along the lines of, strange things happen, Joe, when you're dealing with time and all that. I think it's just a very sweeping statement. Yeah, beep happens when you're dealing with time, basically. Don't worry about it. But Barry Letts did put that scene back in when he did the novelisation, which is good.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it's in the story, in the novel. It's just not in the TV show. But I think it would have been useful. It would have closed off the story and explained why they were there in the first place. But
I think you may have talked me round, actually. And also, because it is quite an abrupt ending, isn't it, that? The way the Doctor just turns like, it does feel like a scene is missing. So I backtrack. I think they should have filmed it. What was Paul Bernard thinking? I
know. Yeah, he put his foot down. I think they wanted to do
should
it.
Have come down and said to him, "Come on."
Well, I think I think when I did some research, I'm pretty sure that they wanted to do it, but I think episode 4, in terms of that block of filming, was overrunning by quite a lot. Yeah. So I think that was more important to Paul Bernard to say, look, we've overrun, getting my ass kicked. That's it. The story's done. We're not doing anything else. But I think some other people, including John Pertwee, were like, well, it would be good to film that bit because for obvious reasons, it would explain why we were there, sort of thing. So I don't know, but
yeah, because I think I remember on the production notes on the DVD, it said that there was the TARDIS set was all there. It'd been set back up for them to do it. So it was taking up half the studio and then wasn't even used or something. I think it says that on the production.
Yeah.
So it must be probably a time thing then. We'll put it down to that.
Yeah, put it down to time as usual. Yeah. Then what did you think let's talk about some characters then.
Yeah.
So story-wise, relatively simplistic. Right. Yeah, we've got this human gorilla sort of military sort of peeps that have realised that the roots of the problem that caused the Dalek invasion way back was when this ambassador person, Styles, fails to do his job properly at the peace conference or whatever it is, so, or something like that. And so they go back and, like, if we take him out, then that can't happen, and blah blah blah. Alongside this, you've got the Doctor working with U.N.I.T. So U.N.I.T. are involved, and they're essentially just groundskeepers for most of the story. They're just wandering around the grounds of the house, and the Doctor, the Brig, is very angry on the phone, as he typically is in Doctor Who, and that's it. So the story, fairly simplistic. Direction, static, editing, slow, pace, slow, that kind of stuff. Character-wise, it gets a bit more interesting. So what did you think, first of all? Let's talk about the Daleks again, just very quickly. Did you think that they had a decent story? Because my thoughts are they just weren't in it enough, and I found it very repetitive, the scenes that they were in. They just kept saying the same thing to the controller and the same sort of stuff. So what did you think to the Daleks, though?
Yeah, exactly that. They're not in it enough. You can totally tell they've been shoehorned in to this story. I mean, I like them because I just find it's for nostalgic reasons. It's just that thing of the gold Dalek, which I loved as a kid when I saw it. And, there's so many photos of just the 3 Daleks in that silver room, which is used for like publicity shots and stuff. So nostalgically, I love the Daleks in it. But yeah, you're absolutely right that they're not in it enough. They don't really do anything. There's this one good moment, which is terribly short, where they start torturing the Doctor, and we see the second Doctor and the first Doctor on the screen, and we always love to see past Doctors popping up on a torture screen. But yeah, apart from that, they don't do anything really, apart from like the end where we get the shootout, and it's quite cool seeing the Daleks on location around the house. Maybe they could go and exterminate the new owner. So it's apart from that end scene, the Daleks are pretty much wasted, and it's certainly not a good story for their sort of comeback after evil for the Daleks. Yeah, that is right, isn't it? I was trying to think of it earlier. It's definitely so they had a couple of cameos. So the last one was Evil of the Daleks. Yeah,
they had a couple of cameos, I think, in the Mind of Evil and the War Games, but they weren't Dalek stories. So it's a shame that their big comeback for this Doctor and this era wasn't a bit more exciting for them, really, which is a shame, because you can tell that people are definitely coming back at this point because they want to see, obviously, more Pertwee and more Doctor Who, but the average viewing figures for each of these 4 episodes is 9.5 million people.
Not bad.
That's huge compared to, I'm not throwing any shade, but that's huge compared to today's viewing figures. So you can tell that it was definitely a popular show still when the Daleks were doing their thing. But yeah, maybe it was back in the day. Maybe people like that thing with the Daleks, and they didn't have to be in every scene and didn't have to be doing everything. I'm not sure. But what did you think to the controller then? So this is the dude.
Aubrey Woods.
Aubrey Woods, yeah. So we spoke about him briefly anyway, but this is the dude that's essentially the middleman between the human slaves that are, mining and everything on behalf of the Daleks, and he's like the middleman between them, and he's also the guy that's like handling the stuff that's going wrong. So these guerrilla team of people, and the Doctor turning up, and Joe, he's in charge of sorting that out. But I found him relatively stiff for a lot of it, and it's only at the very end, really, where he kind of redeems himself a little bit and allows the Doctor and those guys to escape. But then you've got one of the security guards that overhears, and he's a little grass, and so that was the sort of redeeming bit, I guess, at the end. But yeah, a little bit stiff and flat, dude.
I don't know what to make of Aubrey Woods. I really don't, because his performance is always, his delivery is always so odd. Well, I can only judge it. I've only ever seen him in this and the Blake 7 episode. And yeah, he always gives this really odd delivery of the lines, in both those shows. And I can't work it out. I sort of, in some ways, I like it, but in other ways, you're right. It's just so flat, and I don't know. I just can't work him out. I think he makes an interesting character as a controller, but yeah, I'm not really sure. Like you said, I prefer the stuff at the end when he's with the Doctor, and you see a bit more of the human side of him, for want of a better word. So
yeah, true.
yeah, but it is odd, isn't it? It does, as I said, the way it says the lines is just. It's not like he's reading a script, but he has a weird way of sort of putting stuff across. I'm not quite sure what he's going for in his performance. You know what I mean?
It's a bit
has
weird.
He been sort of slightly robotized or what? Yeah.
Maybe that's how he thought the character should be played on what he read in the script. You know, this kind of cold person who thinks he's got more power than what he's got. Essentially, like a lot of stories, he's a servant to the Daleks, really. But
I can't get his other character out of my head. I just keep seeing him floating around in the Blake 7 episode. You've got to watch it. Is it just swishing around with his cape? And it's just so odd.
That's Blake, though, for you.
Yeah, Blake.
What do you think to Wilfred Carter then as Sir Reginald Styles? Very, very angry all the time.
Very angry man. A very angry man. I'm not going in that cupboard. Yeah.
In the end, I thought they were going to lamp him one.
They should have done well.
I'm refusing to go. I will not leave. And Brigadier's
Benton might give him a right-hander, whereas Yates is like, "Come with me."
You can tell, can't you? Like the Brig's like, "I had enough of this. Just get him out of the house," and he walks off. And then Yates is like, "Come on." He's like, "No." And then Benton's like, "Look, you've got to come." I'd have lost patience like 5 minutes before that, but
yeah,
he's a very angry chap, though, isn't he? A lot of the time.
Very much of that era, sort of that acting, isn't it? That posh stuffed shirt sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny to watch. It's unfortunately, it's just the way of the world. I think back in the 70s when you're watching that stuff, and that was really what you'd expect to see on British television at the time. Yeah. You probably would have thought, okay, this is normal. But watching it now, back then, you just think, crikey, he's got his knickers in a right twist. This guy needs.
I like it when Pertwee puts him in his place in the very last scene. That's quite fun because that's what Pertwee's great at, isn't it? He's just saying, "Oh, you shut up, sir. Silly old man."
Yeah, a bit of an angry dude. That.
Yeah.
Actually, it might have been Anat, who's the leader of the Gorilla Peeps.
Oh, probably.
I think. Yeah. You know what we're like with names and.
Oh, I've no idea.
And stuff.
I've watched this a few times over the years as well, but no idea.
Yeah. Or was it Shura? I can't remember. No, Shura was the dude. No, Shura was the guy that was accompanying her. Yeah. I don't know. There was Boaz, Shura, Munir, Anat. Yeah. What did you think to those little cast of people then?
Yeah, I thought they were a good little ensemble, actually. That's what I mean. I think that I felt like people were really trying in this. Well, most of them. And I felt like that little gang seemed to sort of work together. You could tell, that these guys had done a bit of rehearsal because back in the day, Doctor Who had rehearsals. So you can see that the sort of actors have gelled a little bit in those rehearsals and they're really into their parts and they're trying to, do their best. So, yeah, although the performances might not have been top notch, I felt like they were doing their best and yeah, they were all right.
They were okay, yeah. So yeah,
they were all right. Just
to confirm, the trio of gorilla soldiers that come back is Anat. She's the woman that's leading them, and she's accompanied by Boaz and Shura.
That's it. Yes, we got there.
Yes, yeah. Yes, they were okay.
Yeah,
they were sort of as expected, I guess. We didn't really have too many people that were on screen long enough to talk about. There was Miss Paget, who's like the assistant to Styles, and she had a couple of lines, and there was a couple of security guards around the Dalek place with the controller, a couple of lines, nothing crazy. What did you think to the characters then mentioned simply in the script as monsters, but the old Ogrons? What do you reckon to those dudes?
They're funny, aren't they? I have a nostalgic liking for them. It's weird the way the Daleks always have to have like someone doing their dirty work. If it's not Robermen or pig slaves or whatever, this time we've got the Ogrons. That I think, in a way, I reckon if I was a kid back in, what year was this? Did this go out? 72 or something?
72, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon if I was a kid back in 72, I would have found the Ogrons quite scary, actually, because they are like, big muscle brains. They've got, in that they've got they're not intelligent. They just want to shoot and fight and stuff. So I think I would have found them scary as a kid. And I quite like the design of them. It's pretty simple, but it looks sort of barbaric in a way. So I quite like him. I think there's one shot that lets them down where the director decides to do a big close-up of the face, and they haven't sort of painted the eyes, so you can just see the mask, which is a shame because it kind of lets it down. But yeah, I like the Ogons. I think they're interesting in the sense that they're a bit different.
Yeah, agreed. They are kind of cool, and you can tell that Peter Jackson's a big fan of Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, because in the Lord of the Rings films, the Uruk-hai big orc sort of dudes, they look almost the same as these. So you can tell a bit of influence is there. But that's cool though, because Doctor Who does that. It does influence quite a lot of other films and TV series throughout the decades, which is cool. But they are cool. It's just you kind of feel for them in a way, because unlike the Controller, who's questioning what's going on about, and it takes the Doctor to get through to him, to give him the real picture around the Daleks and stuff. The Ogrons, bless them, they're just simple-minded muscle, really, aren't they? They just do as they're told, and so you kind of feel for them in that way. I mean, they look badass, and you don't want to tangle with them, but and also they do suffer the same fate that stormtroopers do. They can't hit anything,
can't shoot anything
at all. Yeah, so but they're a cool design though. They could have
I like the look of them. I think they're interesting.
They could have had the green bubble wrap out and and all sorts of rubbish. So yeah, they look cool.
I meant to say to you when you're talking about the Daleks as well, obviously we only get 3 of them, and they're not the thing that does let the Daleks down in this story as well, which I should have mentioned earlier, is they don't really have any threat, do they? And I wonder if part of that is because they haven't got the voices right. So somehow they've lost the ring modulator to do the voices, so they've had to sort of improvise, and the Daleks don't sound like they normally do. It just sounds like actors trying to sound like Daleks, doesn't it? There's there's not enough. Yeah. I mean, on the special edition, Briggs takes over and revoices them, and they immediately sound more threatening. So that makes quite a big difference. But yeah, that's the other thing I think lets this down as a Dalek story, is the Daleks aren't particularly threatening in it. They just seem to be in their room for most of the story, just quite happy to just wander around their little room having a chat.
I think that's what it is, dude. They're just not
the voice.
The voice, and also they're just stuck in that closet, the broom cupboard, for most of the story. So it's hard to take them as threatening, because also you don't know what their ultimate plan is other than just invading Earth at some point. You don't know what their motive is for that. You don't know how that went down or anything. So it's just a bunch of metal things in a room shouting the same thing throughout the story, which takes the threat away a little bit. And also the voices in the original version.
The voices massively let it down.
What about Joe Grant then, and the Doctor, Katie and John? They work so well together, don't they?
They are brilliant, and again, they totally lift up a below-average story, don't they? And definitely do in this case. Great little moments between them, like when they're tied up in that room together, and the Doctor's. It's always lovely when we get those. I think they almost do it on purpose, don't they? I think they did it once and realised those scenes are lovely when we just get the Doctor and Joe having little chats, and that sort of grandfathery sort of relationship that they have, as the Doctor's almost so caring towards Joe, and I was going to say teaching Joe, but you know what I mean, just sharing his experiences and his knowledge and stuff with Joe. It's brilliant. They are great together, and I think Katie Manning does a lovely job with Joe Grant in this. Some really nice moments from her, especially when she's separated from the Doctor and she's sort of captured. But it's great. I mean, they are superb together, these two. Absolutely.
Yeah, they are. And you're absolutely right, dude. Sometimes it takes the leads to just make a fairly average flat story completely watchable, because they are so good. And I love John Pertwee's Doctor. He's just a cool guy.
He's brilliant, yeah.
John Pertwee could have been James Bond, absolutely.
That would have been interesting.
He could have been, And we get the Aikido, don't we? We get the
get a bit of that
Venusian Aikido, and
he's good at that. He's just brilliant at that.
It's just so funny, but he's obviously not trying to be funny. He's trying to be a bit of a badass, but it is quite funny, and
You get the quad bike scene, not quad bike, but the trike scene as well, which is cool, isn't it?
What is that about? I mean,
well, he saw it. John Pertwee saw it at some new, convention. Said, "Oh, I got to have that in the show." So in it goes. Yeah, it's funny.
I wouldn't mind if it went at a decent pace and it was a decent getaway vehicle, but
it's so slow.
The Ogrons are not even moving that quickly, and they're on top of him within a minute.
You can tell that when there's one scene where they're chasing it, you can tell that they're doing their fake running fast because they're so not running fast. Yeah, it's funny. It doesn't go on very long, that scene, but it is fun.
Yeah, and he has some great scenes in this as well, Pertwee, with Joe and also with the brig and with the controller. He has some great scenes throughout the whole story, really, and also with Styles. He puts him in his place and all that. And he seems really relaxed in this one as well.
He does.
There's a couple of scenes where he has to get a bit serious with people, and that's expected. But most of the time, he's just sat down. He's having some wine and cheese. Yeah, he's chilled out, really.
Even when he gets captured in Future Earth, he's having a bit of a lay down and some wine and cheese. It was great. I mean, I mentioned the scene earlier when he saves the controller from being shot, and he's really good at delivering the serious side of the Doctor. But yeah, I also love the sort of flamboyant side of the Third Doctor. I think Pertwee is magical on screen. He really is.
Yeah. Music-wise, not too bad. I think this was a Dudley Simpson.
It's Dudley.
Yeah. Not as memorable as some of his other stories from this era, but still not too bad though.
Yeah, a bit run of the mill, but it's still nice, still pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on your notes, dude?
No, I just wondered what you thought about UNIT's involvement in this story, because I think you mentioned earlier they don't really do a lot until right at the end when we get the shootout. Because I mean, I love the Brigadier, but he's hardly in it, is he? He gets a couple of fun moments with the Doctor throughout the story, but he's hardly in it.
He's down the pub. Nick Courtney was in the pub, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. You get a funny scene where old Yates has suddenly, got his chest puffed up and he's having to go at Benton for eating a sandwich or something. He's like, "Give that to me," and I'm like, "God, Yates has got over his station, hasn't he?" Mm-hmm. So you get a fun little scene between those two, but that's it, really, isn't it? So I just wonder what you thought. I mean, UNIT not really in this story that much, are they? But they're good in the shootout at the end, obviously. But apart from that, they're not really. I just wanted to see more brig. I just love the brig.
I mean, Nick Courtney's great as usual. Yeah. It's just that they don't really have. I mean, they're in it. It's weird, a story, because they're in it a lot. They're in most. Well, they're in every episode, but they just don't really
do much.
Yeah, I think the only two scenes where they're actually doing something is, like you said, at the very end when they're managing to keep the Daleks and the Ogrons at bay while they evacuate the building. So that's all right. And then the brig does have to manage a little bit of what's going on. He does his usual couple of telephones on the go and he's sorting things out and typical brig stuff. But other than that, they're in it a lot, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, the presence is there, but then they don't do a lot. Yeah. I did think the explosion was good at the end. I think it says on the notes, it's a photograph or something. When the house blows up, I thought, that looks good for the time. It looked a pretty decent effect.
Okay.
But I can't work out how they did it, because it looks like a model to me, but it says on the production notes it was a still photograph, but then that doesn't make sense, because when it blows up it's all destroyed. I don't know how they did that effect at the end, but I thought it looked good for the time it was made. It looked to me like the house was actually blown up. Perhaps that's why the new owner doesn't want the BBC there. Perhaps he thought they actually did blow it up.
Yeah, no, I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Before we move on to scores, if you like the Ogrons and stuff like that, remember to check out the Big Finish story as part of the. You might have listened to it already, dude. It's part of the Time War 8th Doctor stuff. It's the second volume. There's a story called Planet of the Ogrons, and it's the 8th Doctor and his companion Bliss. They something's gone on with the TARDIS console, and something has gone awry. And apparently the answers are to be found on the planet of the Ogrons. So Paul McGann's story.
Forgotten about that, yeah.
Sounds pretty good. I've not listened to it, but it sounds pretty decent.
I did back in the day, but I can't remember anything about it. Yeah, I think it's good, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't remember it.
Right, scores. Who's going first? I think it's me to go first.
It's you this time.
I'm going to go in with a 6, dude.
A 6.
Fairly okay watch. Definitely not middle of the road 5, but I can't really give it any more than that. It's just flat, and I think Pertwee and I was going to say Joe Grant then. Katie Manning bring that score up to a 6 for me, dude. I can't give it any more than that.
No, that's fair enough. I'm slightly ahead of you. I'm giving it a 7.
Okay, cool.
A 7, just a flat 7, yeah. Because I agree with you. There's a lot of nostalgia in it for me in terms of I like stuff in it, but when I watch it, it's a bit flat. Yeah. But I like it. I do like it.
Okay, cool. So a 7 from him, 6 from me. What did our awesome listeners think? Over on Twitter, we had a few there. So Will Sanger, TARDISnet, said, it's not perfect, but a lot of fun. I love the Ogrons and the Revolution plot told across 2 time periods, and I like the timey-wimey closed loop plotline. The dystopian future, unfortunately, is badly fleshed out and explored, giving a lack of weight and consequences. A 7 out of 10.
Oh, another 7, cool.
Yeah, Stephen Alexander. A 10 might be nostalgia, but it's one of my favourite stories. Was the first VHS I bought. The cast are on top form, loads of action, plus the prints are in perfect condition, so it looks great as well. There are some scenes where I thought it did look really good.
Yeah,
actually.
I was going to say some of Pertwee stuff often suffers, doesn't it? Because they've lost the original, burnt, destroyed, whatever, the originals, and they've had to colour them in and stuff. But this one does look good, yeah.
It does, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Our writer Jordan says it's quite a fun little story. Not great in any shape or form, but fun. The cast are really what being this story. The cast are what really makes this story. But it's disappointing that the Daleks don't make the big comeback they were expecting after years away. A good solid runaround story and a good series opener. Indeedy, yes. Doctor Who Home says, got to say to start, I love this one's DVD cover. As for the story itself, it's all right. The story is slow to get going, and I always find that, but once all the elements are in place, it's a fun watch. They really do some good work, even with only 3 Daleks. A 7 from me.
And that was 7, cool.
And Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, overall, I enjoyed it. The temporal paradox concept is great. The Doctor in his usual karate chopping, vehicle commandeering, white connoisseur self, and we see a confident, no-nonsense Joe, albeit naive at times. I did find it slow in parts, and the Dalek voices in episode 2 were cringe, but still a 7.
Yeah. Cool, another 7.
Another 7, yeah. And we had a few on Facebook. So Lewis Palmer, probably the only instance of the special edition version massively improving on the original cut. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but one that mostly succeeds in what it's trying to do. The Daleks are a bit naff, frankly, but the time travel stuff is interesting, and the ensemble cast chemistry is at its peak. It's fun.
Yeah.
Cheers, Lewis. A good buddy of mine, Nick, says, this was actually the first Doctor Who VHS I ever bought with my own money, way back in the late 1980s. At the time, I was a little upset that the Daleks played such a small role in the story, but as the years have passed, I've mellowed and have actually liked the fact the main villain isn't so overused. That said, though, the plot does seem a little at odds with the previous story, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, both set in the mid-22nd century and probably be the same Dalek invasion. If so, the Third Doctor completely reverses his own history in this story by preventing the war. Nick, he had to throw that out, didn't he? He says, great story though. The guerrilla attack on the command centre is very well done. Kudos to the director for showing Pertwee's wine tasting.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Cheers, Nick. Will not sleep tonight now, thinking about that stuff, so thank you very much. And lastly, Charlie Turner says the most forgettable Dalek story there is, as it is not brought up to the fandom that much. Pretty good story overall though. It could be much better than it already is. Flaws and all, however, I love the controller's line of, who knows, I may have helped to exterminate you, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest lines in Doctor Who history.
Oh, yeah, it's a good line.
It's a good line. 8 out of 10 from Charlie.
Wow.
Average, then, is a 7.
Yeah, I think so.
Say.
7. Yeah.
7 is the average. Thank you very much, dear listener, for popping your reviews over on the socials. Much appreciated, as always. Next week, dude, what we got?
Yeah, so we'll be back to Torchwood, Children of Earth next week, so we'll be on day 2. Quite looking forward to that, actually, because it was a good starter, wasn't it, day 1? So we're on to day 2.
It was a good starter, actually. What did we give day 1? An 8 each.
An 8, yeah.
So on to day 2, which is good. So get your Torchwood DVDs, Blu-rays, or it's still on BBC iPlayer here in the UK.
Oh, it's still on there, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about in other countries, but here in the UK it's there. So get all that watched, fired up, because we'll be asking for your reviews and thoughts next week, as always. And I think there's a good time, dude, to wrap up there for 339.
Alrighty.
Thank you for listening to the Big Blue Box podcast this week. That was episode 339. It's great to have you here listening to us waffle on about Doctor Who as always. As Adam said, our review next week is going to be back to Torchwood for Children of Earth Day 2. So get that watched and look out for the social posts so you can give us your thoughts and replies and your scores out of 10. In the meantime, make sure you follow this podcast in your favourite podcast app so you don't miss a show when they land every Friday, and head over to the website where you can also listen to all the episodes for free over there, plus check out the reviews and articles from the writing team. So Mark, Jordan, Matt, Harry, Maria, go and check out all those guys' articles. Very, very cool. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Come and give us a like and a follow over there and chat Doctor Who throughout the week. There are links on the website. And remember to hop into our Discord server, which is also free. A link on the website. Come and jump over there. Loads of Doctor Who fans in that little community. It's very, very cool. Come and chat Doctor Who over there. Also, remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. Go and give it some views and subscribe and all that good stuff. It's the Geek's Handbag.
Yay, the Geek's Handbag. Also on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Yes,
get your stalking hat on. Go and look him up, the Geek's Handbag.
Come and have an argument on Twitter.
Come and have a ruck on Twitter, yeah. So that's all good. Make sure, just go and do all the things. Go and do all the things. And we will be back next week for episode 340 to talk about whatever's happening in the world of Doctor Who and our review. So until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...